Hello everyone, and welcome back to Crypto Bytes, where we discuss all things crypto, DeFi, airdrops, and more. My name is Brian, and today we're going to go back into Meteora, which is my favorite protocol on Solana at the moment. They have only been growing, and their airdrop is likely to be coming in Q3 of 2025. So if you haven't been farming it, or you haven't been farming it a lot, there's still a few months for you to get going, but there's a lot of people that are doing that. And so today I wanted to share with you some different strategies from last time. If you caught my last video about a week or so ago, we focused mostly on how to get into pools on Solana and basically get in and get out within 20 minutes or less to maximize as many fees as you can during that period of time. It's a lot more active of a strategy. Today, we're going to go through one of the other strategies that I use on Meteora, which is somewhat similar to what we discussed, but different in a number of ways, including this is a little bit more hands-off, where once you set yourself up, you set your parameters using Hawkfi, like we talked about, your stop loss, your take profit, then you're able to kind of like let it go and just let it play out. Obviously, you'll want to monitor it, every few hours or so. But with this strategy, I leave these in place overnight if they're running. And that's just because, they're just longer term kind of styles of the way that we'll be talking about today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the details, and I'll try to do some live trades with you again, since it seemed like people enjoyed that from the comments last time. All right, so we are back again using Hawkfi. If you didn't catch my last video, long story short, Hawkfi is a application that sits on top of both Meteora and Orca and Radium. Actually, I don't think they have too much on Radium yet. Actually, it's not even there yet. So mainly Meteora and Orca, but I primarily just use Hawkfi for Meteora. That way, I can get a 2-for-1 airdrop. Hawkfi is running a points program. The points aren't shown yet, but they are tracking. And so how Hawkfi is different is that it allows you to have auto rebalancing, and it allows you to auto compound your fees, and then it also allows you to set stop loss and take profit parameters on any pools that you enter on Meteora or Orca. And so obviously the 2-in-1 airdrop opportunity is great, but then these additional tools just make this, the decision for me to use Hawkfi as a no-brainer. So definitely recommend you check them out if you haven't already. And then today, again, we're going to be using this DLMM opportunities page made by GeekLad, who's a member of the Meteora LP Army. So shout out to him for creating this tool that a lot of people are using, I believe. So last time, the strategies I was showing you on this DLMM opportunities was we were looking at the 5-minute time frame. For the approach that we're going to talk about today, I used the 30-minute time frame. And basically what this is showing is that in the past 30 minutes, what pools are generating the most fees per TVL. So, while when you look on Meteor or Hawkfi, a pool might say, it shows the 24-hour fee to TVL ratio, but it may be a lot of those fees were generated 20 hours ago, and it's not applicable to right now. So what this tool does is it gives you that data of like the immediate, and you can go and filter here from as low as 5 minutes up to 24 hours. But for these purposes, we're going to use the 30-minute. Let me refresh this so we get the most recent stuff. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump in and try and find a couple of pools to get into, and I'll get into them with you on here. And I'll just show you my strategy. All right, so let's take a look here. I've sorted the list by the 24-hour fee to TVL. And like I mentioned last time, what we're looking for is we want to see pools where the liquidity is relatively stable, so this is good, and that the fee is stable and or going up at the same time, because if you see the liquidity going down, that likely means that people are leaving this pool for another pool. And usually when liquidity leaves, the fees leave also. In this case, even though the fees are down, they have been relatively stable over this period of time. So I think this is good enough to go ahead and see if we like it. We'll go and look at the chart. So Bitcoin. So we'll go back over here in Hawkfi and find this pool. So we open up the pool here, and then we're going to go and look at bird eye chart to see how long has this coin been around and what the price action looks like. So this one hasn't been around that long, and it's pretty much just gone up and then down. Like I mentioned in the last video, any chart that looks like that where it hasn't at least like tried to get back up again after like the initial dump, I'm just not really interested in getting into. And the fact that it's such a small market cap also just likely means this is probably just going to go to zero in the next few hours. So not going to go with that one. Let's try to find another one. Let's try and find one that has been around for a while, so that way it most likely should be fine. I know Kiwi's been around for a bit, so let's go find that. %, 100. So here we go. All right, let's check out the chart as well. Okay, so this pool has only been around for 7 hours as well. I believe Kiwi's been around for a while, but maybe this is a copycat. As far as the chart goes, it's okay. As far as like now, as opposed to that last one that we just looked at least this one's attempting to get like a rebound. So I'm on the fence with this one. Let me try and find one more, otherwise we'll come back and try and get into this. Alright guys, I paused the video quickly just because I was having a hard time finding a good pool and I didn't want you to have to wait alongside with me. I finally found one, and we'll also go ahead and give Kiwi a try. So this one, Groiper, we can see again, liquidity stable, fees coming down a little bit, but for the most part it's, you know, up. So this one looks okay. Came over to Hawkfi, found it here. We go to the chart, it has more extensive history, at least it's over 1 million market cap, so that's nice. And then we can see the chart, you know, it's had its ups and downs along the way, so it doesn't look like this one's going to go to zero, at least, you know, in the next couple hours, hopefully. So with this strategy that is different from the last one that we talked about is I'm basically going to be setting, I'm going to be creating a single-sided position, just like we did last time using Sol, and I'm going to create, I'm going to do the bid-ask strategy, and I'm going to set this so that it's an out of range position. So basically what I'm looking for is for the price here, you know, I'm looking like I'll probably set the range between like 6,000 here and down to probably 35,000, 40,000. We'll look at the bins in a second. But pretty much what I wanted to do is I wanted to come into my range as opposed to starting in the range and immediately creating fees. So sometimes, you know, as a result of us being outside of the range, that means that we never actually hit the range. But since we're going to be depositing with Sol, you know, typically speaking, the price of that is relatively steady. So even if you're not in a position, you're not losing money at the same time either. So that's why this one's a little bit more set it and forget it slightly, but I'll show you what you will need to monitor. So let's go ahead and enter into this position. So basically I want to enter where the top of my range is about 10 to 20% lower than the current price. So let's go into Hawkfi here and see if that 6,000 is about in that 10 to 20% lower than where we're at. So by us also, just in case anyone's unaware, so by setting this bid-ask strategy, basically what it's doing is you can see the shape here is that whatever range you're setting, it's setting the majority of the liquidity at the edges of the range. So, you know, once what's going to happen with this is that once the price comes into our range, it's going to use the most of our liquidity right then, which means we're going to make the most of the fees right as soon as it enters into the range. And then as it's going down, it's using less liquidity. And then if it were actually to go all the way to the bottom end of the range, then it's starting to use more again. And so ideally, if the price is swinging back and forth there, that's how we're making the most fees from what we're setting our range for. So that's why we set the bid ask as opposed to the curve, because with the curve you're going to use the most like right where we're at, and if it starts to go downwards, then you're using less and less of the liquidity, and you're already going to now have most of your deposit have been shifted into this meme coin as opposed to SOL, whereas with the bid ask it kind of balances out that SOL a little bit better. So in the case where the meme coin actually just goes and takes a major dump, you're going to lose less with the bid ask than with the curve in this example. So that's why we use the bid ask. And so let's go ahead and look and see if we can set our range here for that 6. Okay, so that's pretty good. So by setting it at that 6, that means the top of our range is 17% less than what the current price is. So the price is going to have to go down 17% in order for it to even come into our range. In the meantime, all we have is just our SOL. So we're only going to be affected by the price action of SOL during this time. So we set that at 17%, and then we'll want to set this to go to about 50%, minus 50, so that way we have like a 20 to 30% range to play with once the price comes into our range. So that's probably going to be somewhere in the low 4s. Just take a look at the chart just to make sure that makes sense. So yeah, we can see here that if we were to place the liquidity, maybe go down one more step, that's going to encompass once it goes below 60, then it was in this range for quite a while, in and out, in and out, in and out for multiple days. So the likelihood that we hold this for is higher in theory for that reason, because you can see that there's a good support level right here. So let's move this down just one or two more. Okay, so this is going to be our range. And then what we do here is we're going to set our stop loss. And it's just going to be one tick to the left outside of our range. And make sure by default it says swap to SOL. So that way, if for whatever reason the price goes to the bottom level of the range that we've set, it'll close the position automatically and swap the meme coins that were purchased during this process back into SOL. So that way, if the coin starts to go down even further, we're not going to be affected by that downward price momentum, because it's going to be swapped back into SOL. And then from there, we'll go ahead and since this is kind of like a longer term position, maybe put half a SOL, totally up to you, whatever your risk appetite is. With this strategy, we're looking to make about like a 50% return ideally on what we're depositing, and then have the downside be about that 20%. So we're kind of risking 20% to make 40+% in this example. So we go ahead and create the position. And then once this position gets created, I'll show you one other setting that I set, which allows us to earn more if and when the price of the asset goes up above our range. because basically instead of us taking profit once the price of the asset goes above our range, instead we'll use the auto rebalance feature on Hawkfi here, and there's a way that you can set that where it only auto rebalances if the price goes up outside of the range. They do allow you to do that if it went down to the downside of the range, but we don't really want to do that here, because that means that the price could keep on going down, and you're just going to have this automatically rebalance. Instead, we've clearly defined like what our support is going to be as far as the price, and if the price goes below that, then that means that the price is probably going to dump even more. So we don't want to put ourselves in that situation to have that much downside. We want to limit our risk to that 10 to 20%. During that time, obviously, we're going to be generating fees, so then that limits that 20% to maybe 10%, 5%, just depends how far it was going back and forth. Maybe we even profit from it. That happens as well too. So we go in, the position's now created. We'll go ahead and click on this auto rebalance tab here, and then we'll turn on auto rebalance by clicking this box. And we just need to set our slippage. By default, I always set it at 3%. Usually it does it far less than that, but just to be safe. So you do 3%. And then you can see the rebalance mode. So Hawkfi gives you multiple options. You can have a fixed schedule, so for whatever reason, every couple hours you wanted to have the pool rebalance, you could set it for that. You could have it rebalanced if the price goes up or down outside of your range. You could have it if the price goes up only, that's the one that we're going to use, or you can have it if it goes down only, which we're not going to use. I should have done that here. I normally do more than half a sol, but one thing to keep in mind is, in order for this functionality to actually work, you need to have more than $100 in your position. So you'll need to put probably 0.6, 0.7 sol at minimum in order to do the strategy of the automated rebalancing. So we'll go ahead and set that. And you could go and change how many bins you want to set the price, but basically when it rebalances, it's going to take whatever price the pool is at the time of the rebalance and just have an equal number of bins on each side of that price. So usually what I'll do is, once I've seen that every few hours I'm checking, or in the morning when I wake up, if the position is going overnight, I'll check to see if it's been rebalanced. If it has, then I'll go and probably reassess like how much I want to have the downside be, because if it's actually gone up out of our range, that means that we're probably in profit because the price of the asset has gone up. So we want to protect our profit somewhat and not let it come all the way back down to the bottom of the range that is set again, because we might end up losing overall if we do that. So you can either go here and change this such that the below the price is, we could just do it right here. Maybe this is better actually. Actually, I don't normally use this, but as far as I just use the default, but this is actually better. So what I would do is kind of go back to your 17%. That's what we had originally in our thing. And so pretty much each time it rebalances, it's going to do a tighter range here. So, which also will allow you to maximize how much fees you're generating too. So that's something I definitely would recommend you do. So for me, I'd say 15 on each side seems good. And then again, we'll want to go and set the rebalance to be bid-ask again. So then we can save the position. And then basically we wait and see if the price will come into our range here. So that's pretty much how this strategy works. So, typically I'll go and I'll set up 10 or 15 of these throughout the day based off of what I'm seeing in the DLMM opportunities tool here. And then these typically will run, anywhere from 30 minutes to many hours, sometimes, over a day, even depending on just how much the range is consolidating. But again, to summarize, we're looking for the top pools in here by TVL, 24-hour fee over TVL. We want to make sure the liquidity is stable. The fees are either going up or fairly stable. And then once we go and check out the price, we want to go and enter into a pool position where the top of the range is 10 to 20% less than the current price. And then we want to set a floor of about 50% under the current price. And ideally that floor is going to be a place where the price is, you can see that this is a pretty solid support, unlike here, like it could dip more, but here it hasn't gone below this price in multiple days. So that's a stronger support there. Then we'll go into Hawkfi. We'll set our range. We'll set the bid ask for the pool. We'll set the stop loss to be one bin past the bottom of our range. And then we'll set the auto rebalance functionality up so that it only auto rebalances to the upside. And then we'll set that range to be tight so that it's 15 bins to the right or the left. And yeah, that's pretty much how this goes. And the way that ultimately that you'll get closed out is that either it'll go to the bottom of the range, whether that's through the first rebalance, the second rebalance, or the first initial positioning that you have. Obviously you can take profits as well. Just like with what I said in the last video, if you notice that the price of SOL is starting to take a dump for whatever reason, then you'll probably want to close your position on these as well, unless you're out of the range and you're waiting for it to get into your range. Typically that's the best times is when you have that little mini dump that SOL does a few times a week, at least recently, and that's when usually these will come into your range. So to be doing this when the price is a little bit stable or even up is ideal, because ultimately then it's probably going to come back, and that's where you start to print the fees here. So hopefully this was helpful. I know it's a lot of information and maybe a little boring, so I apologize for that if so, but yeah, these are the two main things that I'm doing on Meteor and Hawkfi right now. One thing I haven't covered here, but just in case you're interested, another way that I'm farming Meteor and Hawkfi is I just kind of have my standard SOL USDC pool where I just am setting a very wide range, and I'm kind of just putting any extra SOL that I have in there, and that currently is printing about 0.2 0.3% per day. So that's over 100% a year, so really nice fees just for kind of my unallocated capital. So I'm doing that as well, and that's something you could look into too. If you're interested in me showing you exactly how I set that up, maybe I'll just do a post on X about that, or I can do another video the next time we update on Meteora. But yeah, that's pretty much how this one goes, and hopefully this was helpful, and we'll talk again soon. Until then, happy farming.